Oh, hey, welcome to Nerd 94 Nerds by Nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and tonight I am going to get slimed with this nerd.
Nerdicus Dave, how you doing tonight, sir?
Awesome, my week was off to a pretty good start, as they usually are.
You're just making me flash back to my childhood of Nickelodeon.
Oh, yeah, what was it if you said, I don't know? I think it was made the green.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was a specific phrase or if the phrase changed.
I think it was I don't know, and you'd get
Yeah,
green slimed on. You can't do that on television.
is that where it started? That show?
Yeah, with like, hey, Alistair, and
And
stuff.
I feel like it went back a long way.
Oh, that's a pretty darn old show. It's from like the early 70s, I think.
And then I don't know. Yeah, I think I remember watching Nickelodeon at my grandparents' house, and they had the long rectangular box with
Mm-hmm.
a line of buttons and a
Mm-hmm.
toggle with like three different positions for the
Mm-hmm.
channels.
Yeah.
And there was a
Um,
cable that ran from that box to the TV.
Back in the day,
Yeah, man, the Stone
back
Age.
when back when slime meant something.
The
Yeah,
rich kids
and
had pterodactyls to send over to their TV to change the channel for them.
pterodactyls.
Yeah,
What? Oh, because it was so long ago.
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, Double Dare. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I love that show. And Funhouse and all that. Yeah, but kids getting slimed was high had its heights in the 80s and early 90s for sure.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters made getting slimed popular.
So I mean, slimes have been a long-standing tradition for D&D.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, right
big
from the very
time.
beginning, like those old drawings in the first
Uh-huh.
master manual.
For sure. All the ones that we still have today: yellow mold, ochre jelly, grape ooze, black pudding,
They
yeah, green slime itself, which is now like a dungeon hazard. But I think it used to have like a stat blockish sort of thing. I want to say
slime. Like I think there was like molds were definitely hazards before.
yellow mold, brown mold.
Slime might have been a hazard before.
I want to say it was in like the first issue Monster Manual, but I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure. But yeah, I always have loved slimes. They've permeated fantasy games. I mean, how many, Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy games do you spend the early levels just killing slimes to get, to grind that XP? I am a huge fan of slimes. I we've made many actually, probably more than any other creature type. I'd say we have a lot of slimes. We have Oozes, there's a bunch of those. There's the blood rhyme. Many of the I used the gargantuan slime in Just Quest One.
Uh,
That was a lot of fun.
I
I
mean,
mean,
how could you not if you're talking about puddings and such?
oh yeah, for sure. Gelatinous cube is just a beloved. I mean, that's got to be like, that's an iconic D&D thing, right?
I think it's the smallest monster category though.
It's one of them. I mean, there's not a lot of Fae either, or
There's
plants.
only 24 ooze type monsters.
Well, yeah, and of them, many of them are just like
Duplicates.
unique versions of existing ones. But even despite that, there's some pretty cool like lore and history and adventure hooks built into a lot of them. Not the least of which is the lowest CR ooze creature, the Oblex spawn, which was developed as part of a Make a Wish thing several years ago, I believe, from Mordenkainen's. Which is awesome because that is a super cool creature umbrella, the Oblex.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
mean, my
There's I've
God, for
used
a
those
slime.
monsters.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
there's something
very.
super creepy about them. Yeah,
Oh
both.
yeah, and they lend themselves so good to it being adventures. I mean, they're replacing people that are out there with slimy versions that like absorb their memories and everything. And there's like a giant.
Both Faye and Plant get 3 pages on D&D Beyond.
Oh wow, okay.
That
So
that
yeah, the
that's one
poor
more
ooze.
page than the oozes.
Well, oozes are just that cool.
Yeah, well, that, but also like that's kind of cool for designers from our
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a
standpoint
huge space.
because it creates a lot of room for us to expand and play with. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
we've done the blood Rhine and the booze ooze.
Yeah,
I
which
think
there's
they're
three.
Yeah.
Because there's like a liquor, beer, and wine, basically.
Yeah, spirits, yeah, ale and wine. Yes.
Yeah. And there's probably more that I'm just not thinking of. I believe not the hirsute horrors and elemental. I think we toyed with it because we're like, oh, it's sort of oozy. That's pretty gross. An oozy hair creature, oozy rudimentic creature. That's nasty, right?
It just makes you think of
ball
something
of
that clogs your drain.
Yeah, just a big ball of stuff with a bunch of hair in it.
Zargon wants to know which one would you have drop from the ceiling on a player. I mean, most of them work.
For sure, any of them. I mean, of course, the I think it's pink slime that we created for out of the box would have to be the best one to fall.
Clearly, the best.
I think Ted came up with that as sort of just like, oh, we can't use green slime. All right, we'll make a pink slime and change this and that. And boom.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite slime or ooze?
Man, honestly, I mean, this is gonna sound stupid because I know they're just like oozes and blah blah blah, but like, there's so many of them that I like for different reasons. Right now, at the moment, honestly, I would have to say the ochre jelly, only because in that Adventures in Forgotten Realms magic set, I ended up with like a bunch of my, and I have a full set, and I was like, cool, they're cool. They're a green creature, and they have the split thing. And I don't want to get too much into magic, but that actually it gave me a D&D idea though. So this is just a short tangent. One of the magic sets was focused on like mutated monsters, right? So there's creatures that you can summon, but they also have this power called mutate, which is you can cast it like sort of on another creature and it mutates the one that's out there, right? And
Did you know there's a ooze folk?
Yeah. They're in Qualish's laboratory or something like that. I actually played that with Sean McGovern on the stream. But anyways, so it should become like, and you can choose which creature it remains primarily when you do that. And if you choose the other creature, when it splits, it will come back as that instead, right? So I was like, wow, it's like, basically it's really powerful. You can get like multiple versions of like powerful creatures very easily. And when I was thinking, I was like, well, that would be super easy for D&D, and we've done this many times. I mean, I know I have, and I'm sure we've probably used it, but like the split trait, like that is so easy to slap onto literally anything in Homebrew. I mean, the mechanics are super easy. It's just like, if it takes a kind of damage, it splits into two. They each have hit points equal to half the originals, and they're one size smaller. That's it. So it's like, that's a super duper versatile trait that the DMs could just slap on literally any creature, and for any reason, whether it's like, it's some kind of kinetic creature, or if it takes bludgeoning damage, it splits, or whatever you want to do. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and just could like spice things up. And it's not hard to implement, or you don't have to do any calculations.
So there's talk of putting a slime in a bucket.
Slime
from Nicholas on top of a door, so when they open it, it falls like a trap. I'm fairly sure that has most certainly been done.
That's what
annals of D&D.
I would definitely be willing to bet that back in the days of like original D&D, at least Robilar the Black probably collected slime in a bucket and put it above a door to use against dungeon denizens.
Doesn't the one kobold, the inventor, have pots of pudding or slime?
Probably, yeah. I think one of the two, maybe slime. It's the one that Chris Perkins played, Splort, or what was his name? I forget. But he died for like that immediately, like 10 minutes after. Did you ever see that episode?
I didn't, but imagine being a guest on Critical Role and you come in and just die.
Oh, he was playing a kobold thing that they just ran into in this tunnel, and not long after there was like this fire giant outpost, and he's like, I'll check it out, and he threw this like beehive at the fire giant, and he was just playing like the stat, the creature.
Yeah.
It's like, it swings its hammer, did like 60 points of damage. The thing's got like 15.
Yeah.
And he was just gone.
15,
like,
that sounds like a
see you
lot
later.
for
He
kobold.
just, like, they just got up and left. Like, he was like, I'm set for like 10 minutes. Maybe 50. Pretty fun.
How was your Mount Mercer experience? It was the best 10 minutes of my life.
So a spurt, yeah, that was his name. Thanks, again.
Yeah.
It looks like the chat's pretty live. A slime summoner class. I want to say that
There was one in 3rd edition. That was definitely a prestige class.
No, something well, it's either a warlock pact or something that we have. I want to say it's in a website post, so it's just free to look up. But that was basically that. Like, or it would just some kind of summoner. Like a lot of making those kind of like classes is just like, well, you could just tweak a lot of spells or abilities to, because most of them are like just beasts or whatever. It's like, yeah, just you can do oozes too.
Yeah. Where you just make
keep the same scene.
I think we've definitely done that where we've made subclasses and like part of the feature is instead of summoning, like you get
like that circle from beyond is like that. They can, it's like it was the druid thing, and it's like, and when you do conjure animals, you can also do aberrations or whatever.
Yes.
And granted, that's incredibly powerful because like an intellect devourer is a lot more powerful than like a wolf. Yeah. But still.
Yeah. But in theory, though, the same CR, so it shouldn't be.
Right. It's just a different kind of challenge. It challenges different things. I mean, all things being equal, it's like, well, a wolf against 4 first level characters could be quite challenging. If they didn't, if they're first level, got any tough abilities and you get unlucky. It happens, man. Adventuring ain't easy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. So which one would you have drafted? Yeah. Oh, we did that. The pink slime.
Got warlock packs being mentioned in the chat as well.
Oh, you know what? That's what Anthony played. He made up his own sort of oozy warlock in Just Quest 1. That's why Moisty was. It was basically just a Quasit that we reflavored because we're like, well, he just always is shape changed into a little flam type
cube
shape. Yeah, but I think he just used a Quasit.
Oh yeah.
But he made up his own pact, and it seemed cool to me. Like so. Of course, that being said, he's a warlock, so he just Eldritch Blast.
See, yes, yeah. That sounds about right. I mean, a druid circle for oozes and slimes would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, aside from the Drublex connection that sort of runs through all jellies, if you want to, I mean, other than that, they're just sort of, like you said, molds and goops that, exist out there.
Yeah, they're not sentient. I don't know what you would call them.
I'm like gray. I mean, there's the psychic rays.
Well, right? Most of them are.
Right. Most of them
are just like.
But I've always liked the bit of lore where it's like, they are, but it's like there's still some goopy demon lord out there who's like, at least on some surface level and all
the strings.
Yeah, or the ooze, if you will.
Well, I mean, let's face it, right? Gygax watched the Blob.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it's like, how do I make this in my D&D game?
Although, that being said, that's a great example because there's not that I can think of. Even the gelatinous cube does not grow larger as it absorbs stuff. That's a pretty cool monster. I'm sure there's some in a third party out there or whatever, but maybe it's sort of like the reverse of Split, right?
Yeah, instead of splitting, it just keeps getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
We do have. Oh wow. We do have a gargantuan.
Yeah, the white maw.
Gelatinous cube.
Oh, really? Oh, the white maw is also gargantuan. That's a singular. Yeah, Dungeon and Animation. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you want this classic dungeon stuff, that's a great adventure. Actually, came up a lot in last week's chat. Somebody was asking for some guidance, which I think we delivered on.
Yeah, like I feel like, you go gargantuan and you've essentially got the blob after it's like grown.
Oh, for sure. And that's pretty scary, right?
Yeah, it's like, I think that's the terrifying thing about oozes, right? Because they're not really sentient creatures, they just hunger.
Yeah,
And like there's nothing to reason with. There's nothing, they're not afraid of anything because they're not
yeah,
aware.
yes.
You know, they just kind of exist and like
They
it,
just react. It's like a lot of times their attack is just like moving towards the food. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like they a lot of them just have pseudopods or like a gelatinous cube. It's like it doesn't feel it's totally indifferent. It's just moving along towards food, and if you're in the way, then you're gonna get eaten
Then
too.
your food.
Yeah,
That's just an Obelix. Then those things are just nasty.
yeah. I mean that's an awesome thing to build. You can build a whole campaign. I mean, an Elder Oblex is a CR10. You know, I mean, even if you just didn't want to do any tinkering, it's like, and there's enough different oozes, and you wouldn't have to just do that the whole time. But it's like you could keep that as like a main plot, just as much as any other mastermind sort of creature, whether it's a mind flayer or whatever.
Well, I
And, I mean,
mean,
and then you start questioning. We talk about the paranoia. Once you start learning that, it's like everybody you meet, it's like, are they just an ooze, an Oblex?
tendril, yeah.
Yeah.
And like they can use the abilities from them, from their victims.
Anybody that grew up watching GI Joe that remembers the episode, I think it was just called the MacGuffin device, where Cobra kidnapped Shipwreck, and he woke up like in just like suburbia. I remember he was like married and his hair was gray.
Oh, and everyone would turn into oozes. Like
Yeah, they would
like,
just melt in his hands. I mean, that's totally the Oblex vibe I get, and that would be freaky, man. If you're playing, and it's just like, yeah, you're at the tavern talking to your friend the barkeep and blah 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 blah, and he just melts in front of you and just turns to a puddle of ooze. I love that kind of stuff when just mundane things are. Have you played with me? I probably do it too much, but it's just like, yeah, everyday stuff's going along, and then this crazy thing happens, and then what do you do? That's kind of my MO.
I mean, I like that kind of stuff, and I've been known to use a bit of that in my games as well.
It's sort of well, you've said it. Just breaks state basically, and it's just like something that can't really be ignored. It's just like this is a totally bizarre thing happening right in front of your eyes. What do you do?
Your players are boring the heck out of you. You need something to happen.
Yeah.
Attack them.
Deal with this and amuse me.
Yes, dance, monkeys, dance.
Is there a summon slime spell? Honestly, something like that we probably just mentioned in a post. It's like, yeah, you can just, like I said, use conjure animals or any conjuration spell and just put in oozes. Most of them have limits on CR, and like I said, you can always just blame Wizards of the Coast if it doesn't work out. Because it's like, hey, CR, right? What's the difference? Should be an equal challenge. Next thing you know, you get gray oozes.
Do you have a favorite? I mean, like I mentioned the Obelix several times. That's like, I guess maybe just because it's the new hotness when it comes to oozes. But I used that for a couple sessions in my Scarlet Sisterhood campaign.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, there's so much, like slithering trackers are another classic that are like really interesting and evocative. We just used one in somewhere. It was probably a post somewhere because we wouldn't be able to use it in a product. But it was in a newsletter about thunder damage, I believe. It was don't ask me. It was a pretty long road to get there. But people can find that on the site. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of like a intelligent-ish ooze assassin that somebody creates just to kill to basically assassinate something.
As you do. Nicholas, the Psychic Grey Ooze variant is in the PHB. Never thought about more intelligent ooze. Yeah, well, that's why I like the Obelix. Like, I use that as a way to bring back one of the big bads in that campaign for just like another session or two. And and also like I had it eat one of the players' kids.
Yeah,
but they got better.
Yeah, and it's like when it does it, doesn't it absorb like all of their memories and everything?
Yeah.
It's sort of like a doppelganger in that way, right? I mean, in the sense of like.
Well, and that's why I had it like eat the the corpse of their this adversary,
Uh-huh.
so that like it would like absorb their memories and like their hatred for that group, even though it
Right.
had like no reason to like or
Yeah,
dislike them.
yeah, it's so many cool ideas you can get through that. One of my favorite characters, Mesmagdu, was killed by a Grey Ooze one shot in Dragon Heist.
Oh
Because
yeah, you just opened the door, right?
Yeah, their first level, and I opened the door and it pseudopatted me, and the DM rolled a crit and just max damage for massive damage. And everybody's like, "I'm sorry, we can retro."
Attack described?
He just said, "Yeah, just whips out a pseudopad and whips at you." And I was like, "Okay," and he rolled, and he was like, "Oh, it's a natural 20," and he was just like, "I'm like, okay." Everybody's like, "Oh crap," blah blah blah. And he rolled so much damage, and then they were like, "Oh, we can retro that." And we're like, "Yeah, whatever, man, it happens." I think his last words were, "Well, that's gross," because he just like smacked him in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I pointed at it, like I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, that's gross," and it was just like that, like broke his neck. Is basically how he envisioned it, and just like smacked him so hard. And everybody loved that character too, me included. And they were just like, I mean, I didn't play him that long, but they just like, man, I had fun.
Like that's like playing like in the Esper game, Esper the Bard game, where we're like technically in our session 0 character creation, and he's like, "Oh, let's do a little bit of adventure while we're here," and you got murdered there too.
Yep. And then I guess I'm not a very tactical player, I suppose, because I got killed. My replacement character was also killed in the next session.
Yeah, well, you weren't alone in dying, so you had company. But,
yeah,
you're our Kenny.
Yeah. Well, especially with one shot, it's like I'm not super invested in it or anything.
Nah,
that was a different kind of game, man. I'm not used to playing like that.
I think it's cool. I think it's it happens, right? It's a game, right? So in a game, like you lose sometimes, and then
Oh yeah, I never feel that bad about characters. Even when like I said, like that character that I liked a lot, it's like they die. That's adventuring ain't easy, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it seems great that you can go on one adventure and get like 100 gold, which is like tremendous amount in that world. It's like, or you can just open a door and get killed instantly. That's why not everybody's an adventurer, right?
It's like what is the show my wife watches with the zonks?
I don't know.
So let's make a deal.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you open the door and it's a zonk, and sometimes you open the door and it's fabulous prizes.
I never
terms, that's sometimes it's magic items in gold. Other times it's a Slytherin tracker that breaks your neck.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I certainly like all my characters, but I never anticipate that they're going to be around for a long, long time or anything. I just don't really think that way. It's just like, if they are, that's great.
So Jacob from XP to Level 3 GM the podcast for Saver Dice, and the one room was like 60 gelatinous cubes, multicolored gelatinous cubes, just stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the most gelatinous cubes I've ever seen as a player.
Yeah, for real.
That was always a fun monster to throw in there, like in the dungeon crawl days. Like, because your players, like, they had like a 5% chance of saying it or not. And if they don't see it, they can walk right into it.
Yeah, that is sort of the trick of it, right? I don't know. That's another one of those classic ones that, despite being so classic, I have neither used nor, I don't think, encountered as a player.
Oh, really? I think I've used them for different things. And I also think I've used them as part of like a pit trap. Where like they fall in the trap, but like they don't really fall because they hit the gelatinous cube. It breaks their fall.
Yeah,
but then they're being absorbed by the gelatinous cube, which isn't a lot better.
I guess I would say at least these days, part of why I probably I'm looking at the stat block now, and I can tell you why I probably wouldn't use them. It's because I would think twice, because like a lot of the surprise of it is based around like mechanical things, like the passive perception and this and that, and I just rarely ever use that stuff that much, so I would feel like it was unfair to the players because
Uh-huh.
it's like if or it would just ruin it by all of a sudden asking for those sorts of things. You know what I mean? And we don't usually take it like step by step. I mean, how many times do you play in a game when you're like in a dungeon and you narratively traverse like several hallways and pass through rooms, and it's just like, well, that'd be kind of unfair and just be like, yeah, and then one of those hallways you just walk into a gelatinous cube, you know what I mean?
That was how they were used.
Well, right, but there wasn't. I don't know. It was just different. I mean, it was more about like you were expecting that every footfall, like there could be a trap or a secret door or a monster. So
listen, in the dungeon ecology, gelatinous cubes played a vital role in sanitation and cleaning of the dungeon.
Yeah, that's what it's for. And they always had awesome art with like skeletons and little coins and things inside. I've mentioned this so many times. I've used it many times too. Is that oozing temple in Out of the Abyss is just such a great little chunk of encounter. Basically, I mean, it's not long, and there's some cool traps, and then there's a sentient gelatinous cube named Glabagool that like wants to become your friend and stuff. It wants to be your friend. It's just kind of like a little twist on the players always like, let's befriend this thing. It's just like eager to make friends, and I've used that a lot just because it's fun and weird. And like I said, it's just got a good little map, and it's not super big or complex or anything.
So,
it's got a great setup.
Dingus McDonald's, what would be a good feat to take custom lineage to RP as a slime folk? I think athlete would be amazing. So it lets you not expend extra movement to climb. And
yeah.
I mean, also increases your strength or dex, which whatever, it's decent. So it's only half feet. When you're prone, standing up only is 5 feet of movement. I would totally just play that as like you just boing up, or and then also making running long jump or running high jump after moving 5 feet on foot rather than 10 feet. So like I would just play it as you're just kind of like bouncy and springy.
Yeah, man, I can't even, I'm just gonna go with that one too. That seems such a good choice. I mean, yeah, there's certainly like some of the magical ones where you could like where you get spells, and you could maybe kind of like reflavor them as being like your Oozy abilities.
Someone mentioned mobile.
Yeah, but man, athlete has so many things that you just mentioned. I'm like, I think you just knocked it out of the park, nailed that one, man.
I was like thinking mobile at first, but then I saw that one. I'm like, I think this would actually be a really good one.
Yeah. So I can already see the wheels turning. Maybe that'd be a character build.
It might be. You never know if we want to make an Oozy character.
Yeah. See what we can do. Again, you can get a lot of mileage out of just like reflavoring things, just starting with that feat right there, which, like I said, it sounds really great. Climbing doesn't cost
Skulker would be another good one.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to hide when you're lightly obscured from a creature which you're hiding. To me, that's just like, being transparent kind of.
Yeah, honestly, if you really like, I would probably just make something like a champion fighter, because you get a lot of feats.
Yeah.
And just make, a grappler. You could take an unarmed thing and just like be slapping people with the thing. Take Crusher, you know what I mean? And just because you get a lot of feats as a champion fighter, and and it adds to the athleticism that you started on the road with.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crusher, you could just be slapping people with your own pseudopods and knocking them 5 feet away.
Nicholas, I was exactly thinking the same thing. Like, that would be something that's kind of taken into consideration as a GM back in the day. And that's like, you're in a dungeon and it's super clean. And that's like how you know that there's something cleaning the dungeon.
Oh, was that? Yeah, you know what? I don't recall that. Was that sort of like a tell in the same way of like, the statues look really lifelike here in this?
I don't know if it was mentioned, but that's like, Like I was actually thinking it. I just hadn't gotten around to mention it. So you're absolutely right, Nicholas. That's like because I feel like back in the day, like first edition and second edition, like GMs were kind of dickish, but like the good ones, like I said, I've said in the past, had a code of honor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like they would try and do things that they felt like fell within that code, even though they were trying to kill you, but they had like these rules that they played with and didn't break.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I mean, it was a lot more like a game, or it leaned more heavily into being a game, I think, back then. Where even in the sense of like, we talk about this with puzzles a lot too, where like, a lot of puzzles are challenging the players, not the characters, right? And that's sort of an example of that too. I mean, you might not, be like, and it's suspiciously clean in here. I mean,
yeah,
like,
it's smooth.
Wink, wink. But
no
you might just
dirt,
mention
no
it and be
debris,
like, that's up to the players to catch up. Like, did he say? Wait, did he say suspiciously clean? Like, why did he say that?
See, back then we would have never, no player ever would have been like, "Can I make a check to see what that means?"
You're right.
The DM be like, "Fuck you! You can't make a check."
There was nothing to check.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, right. There wasn't anything. It's like there were saving throws and attack rolls, and that's it.
And that's it. And maybe morale.
Yeah.
So, but now it's like players like if you say something, well, can I make a check? And instead of like investigating as the player, they want to make roles as the character.
Yeah, and again, I mean, that's why I get I really is satisfying to me to like, so often refer to like just the bare bones basic rules, because like that is how you're supposed to play, and I think it enhances the role playing experience and the using your abilities. I mean, if you're really good at investigation, then don't say, "Can I make an investigation check?" Like, describe what you're doing as being investigative. That's what makes it an investigation check.
Yeah.
If you say like, "I'm just going to glance around the room," then it would probably be a perception check. But if you're like, "Yeah, I want to like, I'm going to go through every piece of parchment I find in this desk drawer," then that would be an investigation. Like you're you're telegraphing what the check that you want to do by role playing.
Well, I think, and not like a slight against anyone in particular, but I think it's just that humans are lazy by nature. So like that's like a bunch of extra steps to get to that investigate check. So now like players know that's where they're moving towards, so they're just like, "Can I make an investigation check?" But I would say like if DMs were to reward players more often for their actions with not a roll but information, then you'd probably get less of that. So like an example of you find a desk with papers, can I want to look through and see what these are, and say they call out a specific thing that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the GM goes, "Oh yeah, well, the third page down, right on the top, you see is exactly that. And then here's some other information." See,
that's a situation where I would have them make a roll for two reasons. One, like people, if they have really high investigation, they want to prove that, right? And like that's why you invest in that, so that when you make those rolls, you can get high. And two, it's like it wasn't pertinent. Like if you're just like, "Oh yeah, I'll reward this thing," then it's like it is a reward if they roll a thing. But
so here's the thing: like if you skip that step, and it's a totally valid way to play the game. If you skip that step and they get a bad roll, they don't get the information, and it's kind of like a dead end. But if you were to give them a little piece of information, and then they were to probe deeper and go, "Well, what does that mean?" Or, what else do I know about that? And then you were to ask for a check. Then if they get really good roll, then you can reward them for it. And then, but if they don't get a good roll, they still have the initial piece of information to go and try and investigate in another way.
Yeah.
Whether
two different approaches.
Yeah, absolutely. So I try to lean more into doing things like that.
Mm-hmm. I just like rolling dice and making players roll dice.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, when I have a bunch of skills or whatever, it's like I want to use them, but I try not to actually. I basically tried to play like I wish other people played when I'm the DM, which I'm sure everybody does, right? I mean, you can't help but play when you're a player, then you're going to play the way you think is the most cool.
I also like rolling dice and want them to roll dice, but I don't want the dice rolling to stop whatever's going on. Like, I don't want like a bad rolls to just be walls.
Right. Well, that's what I said. I mean, in your case, you were just going to make something up because they looked right.
Sometimes, sometimes there's something there, but I mean, in all fairness, it's hard to say just because like I tend to not write a lot of content beforehand, and I wing most things anyway. So sometimes I'll have something in my mind based off of what they say, or other times,
you know what? That's true. That's probably why. Because Ted's also like that to a large extent, there's a lot less rolling, because I would suspect like you might not write down a bunch of stuff, but like a player might do something and you're just going to use that as an opportunity to like get to a point that you do something that you want, like, oh, cool, I can put this thing that I wanted them to know here. Right.
Yeah. And I like that, to use that as a tool of going, hey, that's also a point where they get something, they get some piece of information, and then we can have a roll to see if they get even more information from that, or they already know something, or like they have that information and then like they don't know anything more, but at least now they know, well, maybe I need to go find someone who does know about this thing, or go to a place where this would be more pertinent. Instead of just being like, oh, nope, there's nothing here. Because I guess, and that just comes from like running a lot of games too, and having that happen. Or like as a GM, I don't know if you've ever put something in a game and you're like, it was something that players absolutely have to do to continue with the session, and you're like, I'll just make it really easy. And inevitably, someone will still flub the roll.
Oh yeah,
we've all for that thing, and you're like, there's no way they can mess this up.
Well, fortunately, both you and I are world-class game masters, so whether you, whichever philosophy you subscribe to, is a world-class one.
Yeah.
Or Ted too, he is also. So whatever he says is equally world-class advice.
But with that, I guess maybe back to slimes, oozes.
Do we have any like housekeeping stuff? I mean, I know it's not the first of the month. I guess it would be next Monday. And Ted probably would have told us. He's in charge of
I don't think we do. Oh, I should have. I got my beta red came today.
Okay.
Which is like a really small RPG for like Cyberpunk.
Yeah, from Scott Uhl.
Yeah, which I haven't even looked at it yet. I just opened it up. And I don't know, I got the huge kick because it has a GM screen, but like it's like this big before you fold it out. So it's like super tiny.
Is it like cardstock? I mean, does it stay?
Yeah, it's cardstock. It's cardstock. It's just really small. It has a bunch of the information on it. Which I don't know why, that it just amused me to know.
Just got a kick out of it, sure.
Yeah. And then also, I'll have to bust it out and show it here and tell people what it's about. Maybe I can phone a friend and get someone to bring it to me. But we got miniature gummies.
Okay.
That came today.
All right.
So that's kind of cool. I think they're little goblins.
To eat?
Yes, but they're minis.
Like how small?
They're like gummy sized.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're not like the jumbo gummy bears, but they're not the little gummy bears either. So like they're somewheres in the middle. And I was like, this is super cool.
So I was doing a quick poke around the website. They're one of the top 10 homebrew conjuration spells is called Oozundite. That is a second level spell where you sneeze forth a gray ooze at a creature or an unoccupied square you can see within 60 feet. So that's pretty cool.
Is that yours?
The Not the spell, no.
What is that from?
It's from a post. It's top 10 conjuration spells.
Oh, okay, okay. I see what you're saying. It's one of the D&D Beyond.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
that's something for Oozy people, spell wise. And then I think there is a. Oh boy, there's a sorcerer called Ooze Touch that's in the top 10 homebrew sorceress origins.
So did you use an ingest quest in the did you use any gummy monsters? I feel like they fall in the jelly, ooze, and slime category.
Yeah, I don't know. It was funny because like people would always be like, "You should do this. You should do this." It's like, man, there's so many things
Oh
you could
yeah,
do, and I always felt like I was letting people down or like disappointing. I was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. That's great," but it's like there's just unending things.
So Crawl Space Critters, sent me this box of gummies, which is great because I'm a diabetic. But so let's see here.
Are they sugar free or anything?
No, they're poison. They're absolutely poison for me. But you know, I cannot let little things like that stop me. Oh no, they're sticking to the plastic a little bit, but I think we use it to our advantage. Because I mean it's kind of hot out.
Yeah.
So in different colors, but these are all little like goblins.
Oh, okay.
Look, the green ones.
Yeah.
The green ones get green screen.
Are those like edibles?
Yeah. No, they're not edibles.
Oh.
They're edible, but they're not edibles.
Yeah, right. I don't know. New Jersey, it's legal.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Moisty was a like Nicholas. Moisty was originally a closet that was reskinned as a sentient flan creature.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting these today, and so that was cool. Pretty cool. If you guys are interested in gummies that are little goblins, and I think the idea is they want to do like a miniature line, but they're made of gummies instead, and that's Crawl Spaces and Critters.
Nice. Nicholas Schubert asked, did you guys make your characters for Steven's campaign yet? If so, can we get spoilers?
That's tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, but it's not streamed, right?
Yeah, it's not streamed.
So we're doing ours. Oh, go ahead.
So I know what I'm playing, but I haven't made the character yet. I procrastinated, honestly. I'm playing something that Steven made, right? The
Yeah, he made it. Yes, based off the creature. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a monster called a spell eater minotaur, and there's a barbarian path based off of that Steven had made, way before this game had even been mentioned, and I don't know why, but like I saw that, and we were all talking about using things that are all Nerdarchy creations. So I was like, you know what, this would be super cool to play, and you can play a minotaur, so you can be a spell eater minotaur. So this is.
Oh, is that the DM screen?
Yeah, it's so tiny. It's got like a ton of information on it, though.
Cool. And I am playing a Leonin Shaggy Soul, which is a sorceress beardomancer from Terrible Ideas.
Yeah.
Booklet. And I think we all are. I know Ted's a human, but I was like everybody else. I mean, it's funny. There's so many like memes and jokes, and like about like how parties of adventures these days are just like compared to like the old days. It's like there's just bizarre creatures and things like that.
Let's see. Can we? Oh, there it is.
But yeah, I gotta say, I mean, as a player, oh, cool. Yeah, I like them both. I mean, it's fun to play like bizarre alien type creatures, and I see a lot of like memes and stuff about like, oh, that like breaks the campaign or breaks the setting. It's like, no, it doesn't. I mean, people like even to things where it's like, oh, this kind of thing, like they would be hated or whatever. It's like, yeah, but it's still just stuff you made up, so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's a very distinctive choice.
Yeah, it's right. Zargon asks, you see any chance we will see a Scarlet Sisterhood 5-year anniversary reunion one-shot or mini campaign?
I don't know. That would be fun though.
Yeah, a lot of those people we lost track of over the years.
Yeah, and I'm actually still connected to all of them in
Hmm.
some way or another. So maybe it could happen.
Nick, yeah, I figured somebody would play a Bearded. Oh yeah, I love all that Beardomancy stuff. There's so much fun and quirky and stuff like that. Making it up and play. I love the way Jake's Ordo Wonderbeard character on Ted's game is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to watch him play that character. And that was cool when he made up a couple of spells of like Ordo's Binding Beard, and I forget the other one.
I might have to take the Mage Slayer feat because I just took it for a recent game and never got to use it. I was so sad. I was like tempted to use it on a party member just so I could use it.
Well, it makes sense for like a spell eater minotaur probably has a grudge or has some feelings about magic,
Yeah.
right? So that would kind of make thematic sense.
It's also a cool feat, but I don't really see it get used in games. But it's also very specific. Like if you don't have things that are concentrating that you're fighting or casting spells, it's not nearly as cool.
And it's also, a lot of feats. I mean, well, at least in my experience, you guys do use a grid and stuff sometimes, but like, there's a lot of feats and spells and things that like they're kind of make more sense when you play tactically like that, where it's just like that. I want to make sure you would specifically go out of your way to sort of corner spellcasters and make sure you are next to them and things like that. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, it's a little less like tangible.
Yeah.
It's 100% less tangible when you're playing Theater to the Mind. There's no,
I I mean sort of, but it depends on the GM as well. Like Sly Flare should put out a really good like one page, like here's some tips for running Theater of the Mind that makes it a little bit easier to do it tactically. So if anyone is kind of wondering, and also like a lot of those principles I'd already just kind of incorporated anyway. Like when playing Theater of the Mind, one of the things that I've always tried to do is just err on the side of the players. I'd also just try and get at like not exactly what they're doing, but the intent. Like what is it they're trying to do? So that like for in that instance, if you are playing like a Mage Slayer style character, and they want to be like they're going to want to be right next to the caster and get in their face. So make sure if they can't, you explain why, or tell them what they need to do to make that happen if that's important to them in that particular situation.
Yeah, well, theater, yeah, it's just it's much more goes much more smoothly with a group that like just is pretty trusting of each other and things like that. Like for those reasons, because it's like you could totally just be a dick and like, nope, you can't make it up to him. Sorry, like there's not enough room.
And also like generally like mage.
So I guess that's why I mentioned the sorry real quick,
yep.
Like the tangibleness of it, because it's like I know how we play, and it's like I'm the same way as you. It's like if somebody picks that feat, obviously they want to play a kind of character that can kick mages' asses and stuff. Yeah. So I'm going to keep that in mind. Whereas like, if you're just taking it, like if you didn't have that kind of trusting connection, it's like, it's either going to get horribly abused by the player taking advantage of a DM who is going to be lenient towards them, where it's just like, every single time they're going to or they could just never let you do it and just be like, nope, can't use it. There's nowhere to stand.
Nowhere to stand. Can't get there. No one uses magic in this world.
Yeah, and in those kind of groups, that's why having a map is better, because like those players need to show the work. Basically, they need to show the work, like to solve the math problem. It's like, no, I can get there. There is a place to stand. So, anyways, sorry.
And we also come from playing with very adversarial GMs early on, where they're going to make obstacles and make it so you can't do it. Like they want to know your intent so they can stop it, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to like facilitate the fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how different is that? Where like I think Ted and I touched on last week too. Where it's just like these days, like I consider it like a priority when I'm jamming to like intuit what the players like, what they think is cool about their character, so that I can get to that moment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like, oh, okay, this person wants to be like in the chat somebody said like a tank sort of. So like if I'm playing with somebody, it's like, okay, clearly like they want to be somebody that's going to protect everybody, be able to take a beating and stuff. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm going to make that happen.
Right. So you're like, okay, there's going to be a bunch of brutes that are up front for them to kind of get in their face.
Yeah.
But one of those other GMs would have been like, yep, nothing but archers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Just gonna get peppered
Archers
by
behind the
unseen.
pike wall.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're like they're kneeling down with pikes in a line, and there's archers behind them.
Yeah, I like to do hard choices too, like theater of the mind, where it's like, hey, there's 5 enemies. Oh, you want a fireball? You get 3 of them, or 5 if you want to hit this player, right? Something like that, where they have to decide tactically what they want to do.
And again, after playing, we've played games again a lot together, and it's like, when you just kind of like are on the same page as everybody, it's like, I want them to be able to do the cool stuff, and the players don't get mad, like things like that when you're like, you can't get everybody, and like you might catch your friend too, and it's like, okay, well that's kind of cool because they know it's like you're not doing it to try and kill the friend. You're just doing it to like make it tough, like you said, and make it some memorable thing. Like, oh man, that was close call, but we did it
anyway. And I've played with players who've been like, if you damage me with that fireball, it's on. Oh really? For the end of time, we're going to be enemies. And I've also played with players who've been like, that are like, oh, I don't want to hit my friend, and they're like, the friend is like, no, totally fireball me, get these 6 OPs.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of discussion on a Facebook post the other day because I had said something about hit points, and I don't remember if it was a chat with you or Ted, but we said worst name mechanic ever. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
oh yeah,
it has always supposed to have been an abstraction, even since the earliest days. And even knowing that and thinking that is the ideal way, I don't play like that.
Yeah, we still describe it as getting shot with an arrow or
right. But so like in those situations, it's like, well, you're not getting burned by the fireball. You're just like, whoa, that took a lot out of you to be near it when it went off. But you're not like actually getting burned.
So, oh no, you totally got incinerated.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? And it's like, that's dramatic, right? I mean, I like, things like that. That seems like those are the things you remember. It's because it's like, just picture that. I mean, you're in a room, conflagration, and it's like, oh my God, I'm right in it, but you survived, and all the enemies went down.
Zargon, you must have been around for a while. The hit points are a resource.
Huh?
That's a Scott Garberryism there.
That's a gamist way of looking at it, which is fine too.
I mean, I feel like, well, the first time I think I've heard that uttered regularly is from him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So Nicholas.
I mean, they are that does appeal. That is the gamist, right? That's why I like 4E and stuff a lot.
So Nicholas is talking about this has inspired me to do an ooze themed dungeon crawl that ends with a roper reflavored as an acidic ooze monster.
Oh yeah, that sounds awesome.
I feel like there's probably already a couple like ooze inspired dungeons that are already pre-existing too.
There's one in Book of Layers, I think, from Kobold Press. It's called like the Blind Temple or something like that. Yeah. And it's not exactly an ooze. I believe it's an oculo swarm, so pretty gross and gelatinous. And there's a really cool puzzle in there and some neat obstacles and traps. And like I said, there's that oozing temple thing. So I mean, just mashing those kind of things together, Nicholas, you can make a really cool dungeon of like a lot of ooze type things.
We need some kind of ooze swarm.
I think there is, isn't there?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I really liked that blood rhyme. That was a pretty like I actually made up a stat block based on the video that you guys put together on the site.
I don't remember how that came about. I think I was laying in bed or something.
Yeah, like just frozen blood.
Yeah.
It was like around when Rime of the Frostbane came out, and maybe also you'd been watching Expanse, and it was that one that like slingshot Jackie wanted to go through the
man.
The ring.
Now I want to know. Let's see. We can't do a sub swarm search. Suck
Huh.
D&D Beyond.
Well, it would be called Swarm of whatever.
Oh, that's true. In that case, there definitely is not one.
Um,
But maybe we need to make one.
mm-hmm.
I mean, like a bunch of little almost like platelets.
There's a magic item on the site which is like a potion, a sentient potion that like you can drink it, and it like just I think you can whatever potion that it is, you can just use it once a day. Or I think you can let it like crawl out of your mouth, and it like will be like a like a creature for like a certain amount of time.
Tornado ooze. Oh my god. Is there? So
Is there
Dingus wants to know: is there a slime in 5e that splits a smaller slime?
Is there a slime that doesn't?
Yeah, it's like splitting is.
That's
like
what slimes do. Black pudding, ochre jelly, gray ooze. I think they all have split. That's why you were in here at the beginning, Dingus. Just if you want just a really fun, quick DM, homebrew tip, just take that split trait and slap it on anything from a troll to a giant or anything, literally anything, and have some fun with that. I mean, it's great for a troll. Like, now you got 2 medium-sized trolls. And then you chop those.
It used to be
now you got 4 small trolls, and you have 8 tiny trolls.
Yeah, pudding, black pudding splits,
ochre jelly splits, and gray ooze. Those are like your core, your 3.
Gray ooze does not split.
Gray ooze doesn't split?
No.
What the heck? How dare you, gray ooze?
Oh my god. You know how we were talking about like an ooze that grows? Well, the huge gray ooze has the enlarge spell that it can do once per rest.
Oh.
So
that's cool.
So we can go from huge to gargantuan.
See, yeah, I love stuff like that for so many reasons. One, just super cool that you could do that. 2, it's like great way to just use the mechanics of a spell to, I mean, if I design, I would probably just make that a trait, not like it can cast a spell. You know what I mean? Like it would just do that.
Oh my god, this monster is so sick. It's only a CR8.
What is it called?
It's a huge gray ooze.
Okay.
When it's enlarged, it doubles the damage. It normally does 6d6 acid damage plus 2d6 acid damage, and it doubles when you enlarge it to 12d6. I used the treasure golem against my group this weekend.
Yeah,
last weekend, and I was debating on whether I should like weaken it or not, and like I do this all the time, and I'm like, let's see what happens, and like they were so close. Like Ted just cast a lucky spell that worked, and had he not cast web, the second to the last round, it dropped 2 players. Had it gone again, it would have dropped another 2 players.
Wow.
There's only 5 players.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I think it's not a must, but I think it's a sign of a good combat if at least somebody goes down or is close.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty wussy. I'm a pretty wussy DM anyway. But yeah, certainly, players have been on the brink. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, it's like if it's a big battle, it's like, well, yeah, I hope it's like on the edge. Even when I'm a player, I like it when it's just like,
yeah,
it's like I don't know if we're gonna do this.
That's why I don't care. Like if I misjudge and it's weak, and my players just like trounce the monsters, because then like I know eventually I'm gonna have that fight where it's like, oh, like they barely made it, and me as the GM is going, should I fudge stuff? And I'll tell you, as a GM, I don't. So, like, I do have the instinct to want to, but at the end of the day, I pretty much always go, well, let's just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much cooler when I do that and the players pull it out, right? And it's just like, Because like, if had I fudged it and made it easier for them, it wouldn't have meant nearly as much.
If anything, yeah. Yeah, I guess not easier, but it's just sometimes if it's like a real slog and it's clear they're gonna win, it's just like okay.
That's different. That's just
Yeah.
boring, right? Like, yeah.
Like especially when it's like that situation and then somebody does do something cool. It's like that seems like a cool killing blow.
No, kill the player characters to death. Do not bore them to death.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah. Oh, geez, it's 9 o'clock already. Wow.
it is like 9 o'clock. So on that note, that's a wrap. Next week we'll be back with our weekly game Tuesday nights. This week we're still off because we're gonna do our session 0 tomorrow night. And then we'll return. I'll be back rest of the week with the live chats. And with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.